My brothers and sisters in Christ, good morning. I am Br Stanley Villavicencio from the Philippines. What I'm going to tell you is about what happened to me, about my own personal encounter with Jesus Christ of the Divine Mercy. And I hope after hearing my testimony, it would increase your faith that there is really a God and that our God is a living God. What happened to me happened last March 2, 1993. That was a Tuesday and a birthday of one of my children. By the way, at the time, I have 10 children. But now, I have 13. And it is our practice that whenever there is an occasion in our house, we invite the statue of the Blessed Virgin. And it is also a practice that whenever the Virgin comes into our house, it is I who have to receive the Virgin. But on that day, when the Virgin is already in our house, whatever we do to wake me up, I cannot be awakened. So it was my mother-in-law who received the Virgin. At 8 o'clock that morning, my mother-in-law said she heard me mooning and mooning. So she tried to look at me in my room, and she found me lying in bed, trembling vigorously. She found me lying in bed, trembling vigorously, and blood coming out from my mouth forcefully. Blood coming out from my mouth forcefully. And it also happened that the sister of my father-in-law, who is a nurse, was present. So she attended to me immediately. And as she touches my pulse, she cannot find any pulse beat anymore. And as she touches my breast, my heartbeat is already very, very slow. As she opened my eyes, both eyes are already in white. So they asked help from our neighbors, and they bring me to Chonghua Hospital. At the hospital, they hired 4 specialist doctors, and the doctor said that my chance of survival is 1 in a million, because my heartbeat is already very, very slow. As I enter the emergency room, I cannot breathe anymore, even with the help of oxygen. So they transferred me to the ICU, or the intensive care unit, so that my breathing can be aided through ambu-bagging, or forcing oxygen inside. At the ICU, my trembling did not stop, and the coming out of blood from my mouth. So the doctors injected me with Valium to control everything. And since Negros Island and Cebu are just very near, so that very day, my relatives arrived. Among them is my father, who is a doctor, and my sister, who is also a doctor. And the cousins of my wife, who are doctors, were already present. And by the way, my wife is also a nurse. The following day, the doctors called up my wife and asked permission to remove all the life support apparatus attached in my body, because they said there is no more chance of survival because all my organs stopped. And since there is no more chance of survival, so my wife called up our house and asked that my long-sleeve shirt for burial be prepared. It also happened that my mother-in-law has a memorial plan, and that her memorial plan is transferable. So she had it transferred to my name, meaning I will be the one to use her coffin. And also we have a reservation at the Queen City Garden, a memorial cemetery in Cebu, because when my father-in-law died in 1987, we bought 3 lots. So they processed all the papers so that they can bring me to the Queen City Garden, meaning everything is already ready. I have already a shirt for my burial. I have already a coffin to stay in. I have already a cemetery to live in. But God has a different plans, because none of my relatives agreed to remove the life support apparatus attached in my body. In fact, they keep turns in bugging me. But it is only my body that is present at the ICU of Chonghua Hospital, because I saw a light, a very bright light, but not glaring. We can stare at it. It's like a fog. It's like a fog that it slowly evaporates until I notice someone is standing in front of me. And when I look at his face, I recognize him as Jesus. And as we are looking at each other, he raised his left hand. And when he raised his left hand, the clouds above were sucked downward. And when it reaches just above us, the clouds keep on turning. The clouds keep on turning and changes its color. And when it stops, it becomes into a video screen. When it stops, it becomes into a video screen. And when it becomes into a video screen, he showed the film of my life. He showed the film of my life from my childhood up to my present. And I notice that every time I do good, it just go on normally. And I also notice that every time I commit a sin, every time I commit a mistake, suddenly it would go into a slow-mo. Suddenly it would go into a slow motion, as if he wants to show us that what we have done is wrong. As if he wants to show us that what we have done is a sin. And because I have also committed bigger sins, like what we call mortal sin, if it shows up, suddenly it would stop, close it up, and enlarge it. But I said to myself, why should this be included? There must be no board of censor in heaven, because it is just too bad to look at. But even if I will close my eyes, I could still see it. And also I notice that every time I commit a sin, I could feel the heaviness. I could feel the heat. The more I commit a sin, the more the heaviness, the more the heat. And also I notice that if I do good, for example, if I do good something for the poor, I could feel as if I am floating. So it is really true what is written in the Bible, that whatsoever you do to the least of my brethren, that you do unto me. And also I notice that those sins that I did not confess to a priest, it is very heavy. It is very heavy. But those sins that I confess to the priest, it goes out, but it is lighter. It is lighter. And we cannot deny anything, because the screen is so big and very clear. And the pictures are also so big. And below the pictures are written the day, the month, the date, and the year. For example, today, Saturday, February 17, year 2001. And below that is also written the hour, the minutes, and the second. So we cannot deny anything, because even the seconds are recorded. Even the seconds are recorded, so we cannot deny anything. And in fact, he reviewed my phone for 3 times. And after our long conversation, he tapped my shoulder. And as he was tapping my shoulder, he said to me, "You go back now, because you have still so many things to do. You have still so many things to finish. If I have something for you, or if I have a message for you, I will just appear to you in your dream." After he said that, I was at the ICU of Chonghua Hospital. Suddenly, I got up. And when I got up, I could feel my body so light and my head so fresh that when I got up, I removed the oxygen from my nose. After removing the oxygen, there is a tube going down to my intestine. So I slowly removed the tube because it tickles me. After removing the tube, I slowly removed the dextrose IV from my hand. And because there was a nurse who saw everything, and that she was so afraid that she ran away. In fact, the nurse said one of the heel of her shoes was broken. When the nurse returned, just the other nurses, the doctors, and the technicians, they're all running. And when they reached me, they helped me put to bed again. And when I'm already in bed, one of the doctors put on his stethoscope. He put on his stethoscope and he examined me. And after a short examination, the doctor put off his stethoscope, put it beside him, and he asked for another stethoscope. Meaning, he did not believe his stethoscope. So he was given another stethoscope, put it on, and re-examined me again. And after a long examination, he looked at my EKG, because every bed in the ICU has its own EKG. And they said, since I was admitted at the ICU, my EKG was just in straight line. Since I was admitted at the ICU, my EKG was just in straight line. But now, they were so surprised because my EKG is working normally. My EKG is working normally. And because the technicians were already present, so they subjected me to ultrasound, X-rays, laboratories, and brain scan. And now, all the results were in negative, meaning I am not sick. So the doctors were so surprised, and they asked permission from my wife to have another re-examination, because they said there might be something wrong with the apparatus. And my wife consented, and they subjected me again to another ultrasound, laboratory test, and brain scan, except for the X-ray. And again, all the results were in negative, meaning I am not really sick. So the doctor said to my wife, "Mrs., there is nothing now that we can do. It's already a miracle. So you better have a mass celebrated for this purpose." When I woke up, it's 8 o'clock in the morning of Friday. When I woke up, it's 8 o'clock in the morning of Friday. And if you will count it, from 8 o'clock in the morning of Tuesday to 8 o'clock in the morning of Friday, that's exactly 3 days. That's exactly 3 days. And because of that, the media was alerted. The TV, the radio, and the newspaper. And because our church, the Roman Catholic Church, do not just easily believe in miracles, so it has to be investigated. And the investigation was led by no less than the Archbishop of Cebu. Ricardo Cardinal Vidal. Cardinal Vidal leads the investigation. He started investigating in March. At the middle of September, Cardinal Vidal released a letter confirming what happened to me. And he gives me an endorsement letter so that I could give testimony around the world. Especially that one of the doctors who attended me at the ICU, he's not just an ordinary doctor. Because when he graduated medicine, he graduated magna cum laude. When he took the medical board exam, he is top-notcher all over the Philippines, meaning he got the highest score all over the country. And when he entered Chonghua Hospital, he was awarded as most outstanding PGI doctor. And when he was already a resident doctor of Chonghua Hospital, he was assigned to me at the ICU from the very beginning until I woke up 3 days after. And the doctor said, science cannot do anything against the power of God. And because he cannot sleep anymore, and because he cannot sleep anymore, so he entered the seminary to become a priest. Now he's already a priest. From March 1993 up to now, Jesus keeps appearing to me through my dream. And that is also accepted by our local church. Because my spiritual director is Monsignor Chris Garcia. Monsignor Chris Garcia is one of the holiest priests of the Archdiocese of Cebu. And he is also gifted. He has the gift of internal locution, meaning he can also talk to Jesus, but he cannot see Jesus. But Jesus appears to me through a dream where I could see him, where I could talk to him, where I can touch him, I can even embrace him. And what is best for us? Every time Jesus appears to me, he also tells my spiritual director. So there is a confirmation. That's why wherever I go, it is embraced by the church. And during the investigation, the doctors asked the priest, where does that blood come from? The blood coming out from my mouth. Where does that blood come from? Because I have no one. There is no one. So where does that blood come from? And why I was not short of blood? Because the blood coming out from my mouth is forcefully and continuously. So why I was not short of blood? And why there was no blood transfusion? Because when I woke up, everything was normal. And the priest prayed, and after praying, they answered that this blood coming out from my mouth is for cleansing. I have to be cleansed because I will face the Lord. And it is also written in the Bible that so whoever sees the Lord will have to die. So I have to die. And because I have a mission, so I have to live again. And also some of them would ask me, why you? Why did Jesus choose you? And I said, maybe because I am nothing. Maybe because I have nothing to be proud of. That's why when I have a conversation with Jesus, I ask the Lord, my God, why me? I am a sinful man. There are so many much more worthy than me. Why me? And Jesus answered, You cannot appreciate the beauty of my mercy unless you experience the misery of sin. You cannot appreciate the beauty of my mercy unless you experience the misery of sin. So I accepted my mission. And also so many are coming to me and entrust their problem to me. So I would ask the Lord, my God, so many are coming to me and entrust their problem to me. What shall I do? And Jesus answered, just let them pray the chaplet unceasingly, and they will be guided. Just let them pray the chaplet unceasingly, and they will be guided. That's why now in the Philippines, the chaplet is very popular. Not only among the Catholic, also among the other religious, and in other church denomination. Because I have already also given my testimony to other church denomination. Those, as long those who believe in Jesus. Because there's so many miracles that they attributed to the chaplet. That's why there's so many now praying the chaplet. For example, my spiritual director, Monsignor Chris Garcia, he had a slight stroke a few months ago. And so he was admitted at the hospital. And the doctor said that he has a brain tumor and there is a virus in his brain. And that he cannot open his eyes because it is too painful. So we went to the hospital and we prayed the chaplet together with Monsignor Chris. And after we prayed the chaplet, a few minutes later, Monsignor Chris stood up and we had a conversation. And another few minutes later, he asked for his laptop computer. So you see the power of the chaplet. And the following day, we prayed again the chaplet together. And after we prayed the chaplet, the doctors re-examined him and found him negative of everything. So the third day, he checked out of the hospital as if nothing's happened. You see the power of the chaplet. Also, in one of our leaders, one of our Divine Mercy leaders in the Philippines, his wife had a stroke early in the morning. So they brought his wife to the hospital. And the doctors gave him a prescription pad to buy the medicine. And because he is poor, so he cannot buy the medicine. So what he did, he has to sell his pig. He has to sell his pig. And the buyer paid him for the pig. But the buyer said he will just get the pig the following day. So, because he was already given the money, so he buy all the medicine. But that afternoon, that very day, the pig refused to stand up and refused to eat. So he was so worried. So, because if ever something happens to the pig, he will be in trouble because they already consumed the money for the medicine. So he called all his children and explained to them what happened. And he asked them that we have to pray the chaplet for the pig. So they prayed the chaplet. But at the middle of praying the chaplet, the children were laughing because they said, it is better to pray the chaplet for a person, but not for a pig. So he has to explain it again to the children that they really needed the pig, because if something happens to the pig, they will be in trouble. So he explained it again. And on the third time that they prayed the chaplet, the children prayed intensely, and they finished praying the chaplet. And after they finished praying the chaplet, the pig suddenly stood up. And one of the children ran and get some food, and the pig consumed everything. And the lesson is, if Jesus answers the prayer for the pig. How much more if you will pray the chaplet to a human being? Also, another one leader of our divine mercy in the Philippines, he has a rice field, and because he is poor, so what he cannot buy fertilizer, he cannot buy insecticide. So what he did, every morning he will just pray the chaplet around his rice field, also in the afternoon. And during harvest time, his neighbor were all surprised because his harvest is much more than those using fertilizer and insecticide. So you see how powerful is the chaplet. And also, wherever I go, they would ask me, Brother Stanley, how soon is Jesus coming back? And also somebody will say, Brother Stanley, is the chastisement really true? Is the presence of darkness really true? And I would answer them, Jesus said to me, don't be afraid, because Jesus said, I will take care of your future. But also Jesus said, now is the time of mercy. Now is the time for us to reconcile with the Lord. Now is the time for us to reconcile with our family. Not tomorrow. Because Jesus said, tomorrow never comes. Because when tomorrow comes, that is today. So we have to be ready now, not tomorrow. And also, that's why Jesus also said, blessed are those who take advantage of my mercy while it is still the day of mercy. But beware, because the day of judgment is sooner than everyone thinks. Blessed are those who take advantage of my mercy while it is still the day of mercy. But beware, because the day of judgment is sooner than everyone thinks. And also, I asked the Lord, my God, what are the sins that you cannot forgive? What are the sins that you cannot forgive? And Jesus answered, all sins can be forgiven, except if you refuse to believe that your sin can still be forgiven. And that's the sin that I cannot forgive. Because by refusing my mercy, you are also refusing to believe that I am a God. By refusing His mercy, we are also refusing to believe that He is a God. That's why Jesus also said, before I come as a just judge, I will open wide the doors of my mercy. Before I come as a just judge, I will open wide the doors of my mercy. And Jesus continued that it is also written at the book of Faustina that whosoever refuses to pass through the doors of my mercy will have to pass through the door of my justice. Whoever refuses to pass through the door of my mercy will have to pass through the door of my justice. Now, after a long while, that Jesus is opening his door of mercy. And after a long while, he will close that door of mercy. And if Jesus will close that door of mercy, then who can enter heaven? When heaven is only for the pure. When heaven is only for the clean. And who are the clean? And who are the pure? All of us are sinners. All of us are unclean. We can only enter through heaven, through God's mercy, through God's love. Without God's mercy, without God's love, it is so difficult to enter heaven. That's why Jesus now is begging us to go out and proclaim His mercy. That He is a God of mercy, and that His mercy is unfathomable. But also Jesus said, proclaiming my mercy is not enough. Proclaiming my mercy is not enough. We have to put mercy into action. We have to put mercy into action. And how? By living as an example of His mercy. By living as an example of His mercy. Thank you. God bless you.
Well, Brother Stan has taken a Kit Kat here with a well-deserved glass of water. But we're going to take some questions and answers from the floor. And Matt has a radio mic. So if anybody would like to ask some questions to Brother Stan here about his experience, feel free. Any takers? Sorry.
Before the question answered, I will just announce that Cardinal Vidal and my spiritual director arranged that after my talk, there will be a veneration to the image of the Divine Mercy. And what happened? This image of the Divine Mercy, after that, becomes a miraculous image. Because sometimes, when I give my testimony, he is giving out lights. He's giving lights. That's why there is some ripples in his body. If you look at it, yeah, there are ripples. Because when he emits lights, lights has a heat, and the heat destroys the plastic. And also, sometimes when I give my talk, Jesus gets off from the frame, and he would transfer just behind me. And then he will go back to the frame, take off again, and stay behind me. And it did not only happen in the Philippines, it also happened in Hong Kong, it also happened in China, it also happened in Rome, it also happened in the States, in New York, in New Jersey, in Colorado, and Texas. It also happened in Canada. He always gets up from the frame. That's why during the veneration, you ask to ask him for your healing or whatever you want to ask him. Because whatever you want to ask him, it's not against his will. He will give it to you. Especially if what you're asking for comes from the depth of your heart. So, we now start the question and answer.
Brother, I'm a Divine Mercy Catholic for 13 years, and I've always believed that heaven was there. But my mother died 8 months ago, and I'm afraid I didn't believe anymore what I had. So I just didn't know if there was a heaven or not. And I'm asking you I do believe now, after listening to you, I'm back again on the road, thanks be to God. But did you see heaven when you saw Jesus? Did you see any place or thing or anything like that?
When we were talking with Jesus, Cardinal Vidal said it is the Garden of Eden. Because we're in a garden, and all flowers, all sorts of flowers, so beautiful that I cannot just describe it. But I saw roses, not very big roses, all colors. That's why Cardinal Vidal said it's the Garden of Eden. And I only saw Jesus. And I cannot just fully describe him, because when you are in front of Jesus, he is everything. You cannot just describe it. The happiness, the satisfaction, everything. Because Jesus is everything. Just looking at him, he is everything. You forgot your family.
You said on Tuesday at 8 a.m. you were clinically dead until Friday at 8 a.m. And just when I was listening to you, I was wondering, was there significance to you or made to you by Jesus himself of the fact that it took him 3 days to rise from the dead?
What happened to me is just for 3 days. Huh? From 8 o'clock in the morning of Tuesday up to 8 o'clock in the morning of Friday. 3 days. So there is a different time because Jesus showed me my phone from my childhood up to my present, and then he reviewed it for 3 times. So there is, the time in heaven is different from our time.
This is not a very difficult question. I just wanted to know, is does Jesus always appear to you in the image of the Divine Mercy?
Yes, it's only Jesus who appeared to me, and it's the Divine Mercy, all dressed in white, and then all lights going out from the bosom.
What is your attitude to sin now, after having seen the video, the motion picture of your life?
After seeing my film, now I am afraid to commit a sin anymore. And by the way, because every month I have to submit to Cardinal Vidal the places where I give my testimony. So it is everything is recorded, no? So this place is the 3,080 place that I have gone through.
Very good. Matt, has somebody there at the back?
The Pope's latest encyclical on the third millennium encourages all believers to pull out into the deep and drop their net for the catch of the great field of evangelisation. I'm very much aware that as we walk the streets of Dublin and many other towns of this nation, there's many people who are homeless, there's many people who are drunk, many people who are on drugs, prostitution and so forth. To go out takes a lot of energy, and many people are faced, as I talk with them, they're faced with fear to reach out to the needy. How can people here reach out to the needy when we can be in fear? Will the Divine Mercy break through that fear so that we can reach out, as the Holy Father has encouraged us, to the poor and the needy in our societies?
Jesus said to me, you have to pray for the sinners. Because Jesus said, the sinners do not pray for themselves anymore. So their salvation depends upon us. So we have to multiply our prayer for the sinners.
Has Jesus had any message for the people of Ireland? And if so, what should the Irish people be asking most for in terms of the mercy of Jesus? What is the greatest sin that we need to ask Jesus' mercy for?
Jesus loved so much Ireland. In fact, without God's mercy, I will not be in front of you. That's why I'm here, because Jesus loves you so much. And Jesus wants you not just to keep what you hear now. He wanted you to radiate whatever you heard today. You have to radiate it so that so many can enter heaven through you.
Would Br Stanley have a message for anyone, perhaps, that would be talking to him, or, you know?
Yeah, that's why I said Jesus is very happy with you and he loves you very much. That's why before my coming, there's so many problems in securing the visa. There's so many problems. But Jesus said, don't worry. You will go there because I love them.
And I have a very practical question to you. How do you survive? How do you live with 13 children?
How did I survive? Yeah, that's also what, when I have an interview at the U.S. Embassy in Manila, before going to the States, because my application, there is no financial status, because I have no job, no salary, no? So my financial status is 0. So the embassy, the consul in Manila, she asked me, how did you survive? You have 13 children. How did you feed them? How did they go to school? How did you survive? So I answered her. I said, I survived through the grace of God. And they answered me, no. We don't believe. Do you not believe me that I survived through the grace of God? So they told me to come back if I have already a financial status. So they denied me. And a few weeks later, one of the, when I go out of that embassy, I have some friends in Manila who has a company, because I have given my testimony in some of the companies, and they said, you will need to borrow money so that I can have, and will deposit it in a bank in my name, so that I have a show money for the American embassy. But I said, no, I cannot do that, because if I will accept that money, I will commit a sin anymore. Meaning, it is my will to go to America, not God's will. If I will go to America, I have to go there without a single centavo. And a few weeks later, one of the radio stations in America, Drew Mariani, Marian, he called me by long distance and he gave me 3 hours to give testimony via satellite. It is aired all over America. And then after the testimony, there is a question and answer. And there's also a woman who asked me why I was denied. So I explained what happened. And the following day, one of the senators in America called up, Senator Richard Logan. And he said, he heard, because during my testimony, some of his staff are Christian. So they're listening at the radio. And Senator Logan also listened at the radio. So the following day, Senator Logan told me that I am Senator Richard Logan of the Indiana, USA. I was so touched by your testimony. So send all your facts to me, and I will take care of the American Embassy in Manila. I will help you. And 1 week after, the U.S. Embassy in Manila called me to report to the embassy. And when I report to the embassy, they gave me multiple entry, good for 10 years, without asking any question. So we have to trust the Lord.
I just wonder, is Jesus happy with his response to the world as a whole? Is he happy with the world as a response to his divine mercy, or is he sad with the way the world has responded to his opening of the doors of his divine mercy?
If you want, all over the world, Jesus' heart is bleeding. That's why Mama Mary is crying with blood. But Jesus is hopeful that not only through me, but also through you, we can spread God's mercy all over the world. That's why Jesus said, his mercy is unfathomable. And also Jesus said to me, sinners should understand that mercy is only possible while still alive on earth. Because justice takes over when we are dead. That's why you have to pray the sinners, especially the dying. You have to pray the chaplet to the dying. God's salvation, the world's salvation depends upon us. Not only to one person, but for all of us Christians. We can save the world if we will do our part.
Brother Stanley, I am a priest, and I know there are 50 priests here today. We give thanks for the gift of our priesthood. And I want to ask you, in these times of great mercy, Has Jesus any special message for us priests so that we can stand up and be proud disciples of his mercy to the world?
Yes.
Thank you.
In fact, last year, I will just read the message. This is for the priest. This is his 25th message to me. Jesus said, my son, thank you for being always trustful and obedient to the will of God. And please encourage the faithful to multiply their prayer for my beloved friends, because you are my precious jewels, although some of them cause my heart to bleed. But still, I will bless them abundantly in time and in eternity. Much more if they can stay longer in the confessional, because that's where mercy flows greater than all the sins committed by any living creature. And so please exert more effort to proclaim that Satan is real and that he really exists. You cannot serve two masters at the same time. So now is the time to return to my mother and to my unfathomable mercy. There is no other choice. Time is running out.
Br Stanley, I just wondered when Jesus appeared to you and he showed you a video of your life, the good and the bad. Were you afraid when you seen the bad?
Yes. I was too frightened. I was too ashamed. That's why I closed my eyes. But still, even if I closed my eyes, I could still see my video. That's why now I am so afraid to commit sin.